Got a very unusual watch here on the channel today. It's from Amsterdam. It's called the Batavi Geograaf Wereldtimer. So there's a couple of different models that are going to be available. This is the Wereldtimer. There's also going to be a GMT version. And look, an interesting watch because instead of having a GMT hand, you can see it's only a three-hander. They've basically put a GMT disc wheel. So it works well. There are a few little tweaks that they need to change because it is a prototype. Overall, a good package. Let's run the intro. Let's check it out. Welcome back, guys. So as you can see here, we've got an interesting looking watch. It's the Batavi Geograaf Wereldtimer, and look, it's an interesting way that it works. It's got a Swiss sop rod movement that runs the actual GMT function. So I've had this on the time grapher. It actually works quite well. I'll get all into that, but first and foremost, let's run the numbers. Let's see how this watch is spec'd. So what I measure is a case diameter of exactly 39.2 millimeters. That case height comes in at 12.9 mil. The lug-to-lug distance is 48 and the lug width of 20 mil. Now if you notice there's two crowns, they're both 5.8 millimeter crowns. The one on the 3 o'clock is a screw down crown, the one at the 10 is free rotating. They're both signed and the watch offers 200 meters of ward resistance. And the total weight comes in at 149 grams, sized to my 18 centimeter wrist. For a 39 mil watch, 48 mil lug to lug, it's a very comfortable experience. Even that height coming in at 12.9, not a problem. And it has been very comfortable, especially on that H-link bracelet. The thing tapers from 20 mil down to 17.9 at the clasp. So it has been a really enjoyable experience on the wrist, albeit there are two crowns. So let's take it off and check it out a little bit closer. Now bear in mind that this is a prototype, it's a pre-production version, so you're going to see a lot of scratches and marks, and look, there's even a bit of swivel and movement in this, so hopefully that's going to get tightened up in the production version. And the reason I say that is because albeit it has been a very comfortable experience on this H-link, but just in areas of here it has caught my hairs. It's caught the hairs of my wrist. Maybe because I'm Greek, maybe because it's prototype, I don't know, but it's just something to share with you guys. But the comfort factor's been good. It does offer quick release end links and they're very easy to manipulate. Screw pins, a nice milled swivel, and as you can see, 4 micro adjustments with twin triggers to release. So it's been really easy to find the right level of comfort on the actual strap. So that's been a real hero of this watch. In saying that, I'm not a real big fan of polished centers. As you can see, all the H's are in satin brushing and the centers are polished. So you can see fingerprints, scratches. Not a big fan. I would have preferred this just to be all brushed all the way through, because looking at the watch itself, you can see there's bevels, there's bezel itself, they're highly polished, there's more than enough bling coming off it. That's my personal preference. Now let's turn our attention to that dial and its functionality. Now if you notice the two crowns, the one on the right, the 3 o'clock, will unscrew it. There's a healthy pop out. A single click does not hack the movement, so the running second still operates, but it does allow us to operate that disc, that GMT disc. So let's move it forward. Let's say 7 o'clock, lock that in. So that's roughly 10 past 7, because we've got 10 past 10 here. That's local time. And if you look at the top, you've got Santiago at the top there. We can adjust it. Let's find Mexico. So if that's Mexico corresponding to 7 o'clock and this is local time, 10 past 10, away you go. The only issue is if you notice that if we go backwards or forwards, the corresponding cities do not line up with their times. So being a prototype, they will be changing that. The cities are going to be changed over, because getting this to work right as a GMT Wereldtimer, those things have to correspond. So if it was, let's say, 10 o'clock in the evening, the city out here, which again, you notice how I'm struggling to actually see the cities? Well, being a grey background with white text, it's obviously very difficult to see. There's not much contrast there, and there are a couple of different colorways that will come with this watch. Personally, I think the blue one is one of the nicest ones as far as legibility wise, because there is a lot going on. It's a relatively busy dial. Unfortunately, when dealing with Wereldtimers, you really can't avoid that. Now the crown's second position allows us to hack the actual movement and adjust the time. And as you notice, as the time corresponds and moves forward, so too does that GMT disc. It works really well, but that needs to be rectified where the actual external cities, they don't correspond with the times at the moment. They will be swapped around. Now, let's wind it down. The latch down experience is actually very smooth. You got 200 meters of water resistance. Now, if we turn our attention to the 10 o'clock crown, look, for me, it's in a position, like I said, it's quite high up there on the lug. So trying to grab it and actually operate it, it's quite a tedious task, because most of the crown is in, and on this side, you've basically got the majority of grip. So it's a little bit difficult to grab and operate. But like I mentioned, you're probably going to set it to a particular city, set it to the corresponding GMT time, and walk away. Now, if we turn the watch over, you notice that it's got a sapphire crystal exhibition caseback. Behind that crystal is a Swiss Soprod C125 movement. And although this is a prototype, a pre-production version, I've actually chucked it on the time grapher just to test it out to see how it operates. Very healthy, solid, stable, pretty decent results. Now, turning our attention to the crystal, it's a double dome sapphire crystal on the top, and it's got anti-reflective coating on the underside. And with all double dome crystals, I found you're always going to get a lot of reflections. You really need a lot of AR coating, and this one here is no different. It hasn't had full washout. I've had a lot of reflections inside and outside. I've tried to test this watch, and there is quite a bit of glare coming off that glass. I think one of the best companies that does it well is Omega. They usually put anti-reflective coating on the underside as well as the top. But in saying that, you're going to have a smudged surface on the top by adding AR. So with a micro brand like this, it's doing a decent job. However, one or two more coats probably would have benefited. And in saying that, being a prototype and being a Kickstarter campaign, they might actually add a few more layers of AR just to basically rectify that glare problem. Now, moving our attention over to the lume, the watch has Swiss Superluminova BGW9. All the markers and those hands, as well as that seconds tip, is lumed. It's there, it's doing its job. It's not a dive watch per se, so don't expect a flashlight in the evening. It's not one of those watches. But for a Wereldtimer, for a GMT watch, it's doing a decent job, albeit I would have preferred just that little bit more lume, just for longevity in the evening. Now, with all watches, there's positives and negatives, and this is a Kickstarter campaign. It's going to come in at €649. Being a Kickstarter, they have the ability to change things, which is quite good. So, it's almost a completed item here. However, being a reviewer, if they listen to reviews, hopefully they can change the AR coating on that crystal. There are a couple of other little gripes that I do have of the watch. And for me, that bracelet, like I said, it's got a bit of movement in it. It has tugged at my hair. It has tugged at my hair, maybe because I am Greek, maybe because this is a prototype, I don't know. But either way, it's caught my hair just down here a couple of times throughout the day. The actual polish centers I do not like. That's a personal preference. I'm not a big fan. I really have never been a big fan of polish centers. It's just a fingerprint magnet. It's just something that you're going to be using this for traveling or as a tool. You're going to get scratched up. And once these things get scratched up, they really are unsightly. Not my cup of tea. But in saying that, the fact that the watch does offer quick release end links, you can swap up straps, chuck it on leather, chuck it on something different, away you go. Another gripe that I have with the watch is legibility. There is, obviously being a Wereldtimer, there's a lot going on, but there's a twofold legibility on this watch. And the first one, being a grey in a bezel and white writing, there's not really that much contrast. So it's very hard to see the cities. And if you got, older, I've got 50-year-old eyes, and looking at this, I struggle. If I had glasses or if I'm a younger bloke, you'd probably get away with it, but it is something to note that legibility on the contrast between grey and white will suffer. But also the actual disc itself, the numbers there are very small. So anyone over 40, eyes start failing, this is a watch that's going to be a little bit difficult to read. So maybe bring along your eyeglasses. Lastly, with the negatives, is that crown. For me, it's a bit of a struggle. It's got good tolerance. It's actually nice and firm. I like the gearing on it. It's firm, but it is difficult to grasp and actually turn. Could have either been placed in a different area, like I said, a 2 and a 4, just to make it more functional. Now, the positives of the watch, well, the tolerances are very good. There's good fine detail in here. The build quality is very good. The fact that it offers 200 meters of water resistance makes it a good travel sports watch. The quick release bracelet, good to see for easy strap changes. it doesn't look like they've actually skimped out on quality, because offering even a sapphire crystal at the back, most companies offer mineral glass. That's another addition there. So look, it's signs, crowns, it seems to be finished well. I think the watch itself is finished well, the execution is good. However, it does need a few little tweaks. But I'll take my hats off to Batavi. In a rotating bezel for a GMT, a little bit quirky and fun. Fix those legibility problems and we've got a winner here. I hope you enjoyed that. Hit me up in the comment section with your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.